Hi, my name is Marlene Yuen. I am a Vancouver-based artist and I work in the area of printmaking and works on paper. For the FOODWAYS exhibition, I have created a print-based installation and it is called Piece Together. I took that title from the inspiration of the store Hongwo that used to exist in Steveston. And Hongwo, the interpretation of the Chinese characters translates as peace together or living in harmony. So this was a very beloved store in Richmond, and it served at the time like four very diverse communities. So I chose the title Peace Together. So Zoe Chan approached me to participate in the show about food, and I said, "Great, sign me up." But as I got started, it was very hard to get going. So Zoe introduced me to the archivists at the city of Richmond, and they're just a couple doors down, Deval Bowie. So I wasn't sure what I was coming in to look at, but Deval had set up a lot of newspaper clippings and images about Hongwo and how it was a really important store to Steveston, Richmond, and it was Richmond's first superstore actually, and it opened in 1895. It was started by a Chinese Canadian entrepreneur Ling Lam, and he also owned farmland. So it was not just a store, it also was a farm and fruits and vegetables that were grown. And Ongwo also was a delivery service. That was a big deal back then because, now a lot of people get groceries delivered. Back then, people would get things that whatever you couldn't grow, you would get delivered to your home through a truck. But because Steveston is there's the dike, so the boats would come up onto the dike, and then people who wanted certain provisions would check off their delivery form with Hongwo, and you would get your food, or you can get tobacco, you could get rubber boots, like whatever you needed, it seemed like Hongwo had. As you can see, there's quite a lot of imagery here. It was really, really hard to choose because when you have so much choice, you really have to limit yourself. I chose images in various ways. I chose some images through the Hongwo order form and from what I saw in the archival photographs. And then I chose a lot of images through my research. I'm a heavy researcher, so I interviewed Harold Steves and went to his home. He is a very passionate Richmond resident, and he knew Ling Lam's family. And when he heard that Hongwo was about to about to be demolished, it had already closed in 1971. But when he heard that the building, which was empty, was about to be demolished, he actually had a key to the store and grabbed whatever he could, and now a lot of it is stored in his basement, and it's a little temporary museum. And his hope is to create this museum honoring Hongwo, but right now it really still lives in his basement. So some of these items, for example, Miracle Whip, the coffee, the sack of rice, like those were items that I thought stood out from my meeting with Harold Steves. A lot of things were repurposed even once the food was gone from the vessel or the sack of rice. So the sack of rice, for example, you could wash out the ink and use the cloth for making clothes or a blanket. So I found that really, really interesting and important, just the cycle of food, how we have food that arrives in a jar and then we eat it, but then back then in the earlier days, they would save it and put more food, preserve the food, and then it would just be an ongoing cycle. So another source of inspiration was an interview with Jeannie Ryan, and she actually worked at Hongwo as a teenager. And her family, the Harada family, contributes a lot of imagery to Richmond archives as well. So she worked as a teenager, and I said, do you have any favorite food memories, like just working at Hongwo? And she was mentioning pork chops, and one of her jobs as a teenager was butchering pork chop, which was actually quite difficult because she was very petite at the time. So she's like, whoa. Some people got imperfectly cut pork chops. So they appear. I really want to involve people who had a personal connection to Hongwo, because a lot of things that are seen through the archives seem not dead, but like a thing of like a era like, that is gone, but there are still living people that have connection to the store. It's always nerve-wracking showing a new piece. You're not sure how the public's going to receive it, but what's even harder is how to install it. So I knew there were going to be a lot of things, obviously, but I wanted to kind of look like a store. I wanted to emulate the imagery of the boots hanging, you know, how Steveston was very much a fishing village. I also wanted to show the abundance of the farming culture of Richmond. But when installing it, it was very hard. It's like I was working with Abby Shee, and it was a difficult decision. It's like I even said to Zoe, I don't know where to start. I have all this imagery. Where do I start? I said, which one do you like the best? Like, well, the pickles, because Ling Lam has grown a lot of pickles, and he even had a pickling facility. But even with the pickles, they actually got sent to other buyers, such as Nally's. So the pickles became like an anchor piece, and then from there we radiated outside from the pickles, and then we used color as a way of determining how to place. So what I found when making these pieces, there's a lot of red and blue packaging. So like the Miracle Whip and the popcorn and the crunch, even the bag of rice, there's a lot of red and blue. So we kind of want to like shift them so they weren't all in one blob. So that was the most time-consuming part. It is held with a lot of tacks and magnets. So you do not want to look behind this. And I wanted to feel very full, like looking at the pictures of Hongwo, it was a very full store. There were like, even the storage spaces were very full. So for this installation, it is made through two processes. I'll explain one. The first one is called relief printing. And basically, I carved into this piece of rubber, and I inked it up, and then I flipped it, and then I pressed onto the paper. And what I like about that process is you can move the images. So for example, the pork chop, I can move the pork chop around in different points of view. But for the second method is called screen printing. And a lot of these images started as drawings. So I would either draw directly onto the Mylar, and the Mylar gets put against this photographic emulsion, which is on a screen, an aluminum screen. And then you wash out the screen and you get a stencil. So you can actually print a lot. So when creating the sense of a store, it was really useful. You could create the look of something that was very abundant, and like repeat, just kind of show like industry, harvest. So I felt like that was these were good methods of showing repeat images. And I actually, all this is printed on washi paper, either Japanese or Chinese. So just to kind of represent the diverse culture that Hongwo served. You know, people kind of have this generalization of Richmond now that it's, oh, there's so many Chinese people that live here. But you know, Richmond is so much richer than that. It is a place of diversity. You know, yes, this was a place that no longer exists, but it shows that Richmond served this store served many people in Richmond that, you know, who are Chinese, who are Japanese, who are indigenous, and Western settlers. So I feel like just bringing the highlight of diversity of Richmond is quite, it's just a nice reminder of the place that used to be, and still is, but it's just times are changing now.